What's up, guys? Welcome back to the doctor's office. I am Dr. K. Ray Knight, here to give you proper diagnosis and prognosis and everything comics and comic book characters. So, we have a new Predator book, which is super interesting considering that Predator movie that just came out and Killer of Killers. And then we have Alien Earth. That's about, so like the Predator and Alien universe is just teeming with a million things. Aliens versus Avengers just finished. Alien Earth is about to come out. Predator Killer of Killers just came out. So now we have a new Predator book, which is Red, Black, and Blood. And I love these. I really do. So this particular book is divided into 3 different stories. What I don't like about these 3 different stories is that it makes it seem in 2 of the stories like the Predators aren't really shit for real. Oh, we do have Predator versus Spider-Man happening too. But outside of that, it seems like the Predators aren't really shit for real. Up until we get to the 3rd story where the Predator handles fucking business like he should. You know what I'm saying? So, in the first story, there's a girl, her name is Maleficent, or Maleficent, her nickname is Millie, and her family, like, the very first page is, like, this huge ad for, like, fucking gold. So, like, they're basically talking about some come out here and mine gold and shit like that, right? So, her family, which obviously comes from money, go out there and it's like these camps that are set up, and the father's just like, oh well, this is a little bit more rustic than I was thinking. And bitch, that's a fucking tent. More rustic, sir. You are 2 pieces of cloth away from being in a fucking teepee. What are we talking about? Coming from your house, you came to a campsite. This is crazy. So the mother and the daughter are just kind of like, nah, this shit weird. And while they're there, they're not really getting too much. They're very religious also. So it's like, you know, God will provide and all this other stuff. And the daughter is Millie. She's just like, I don't like this shit. Can we go home? I honestly would have been saying the same exact thing, because why are we here? And one night while they're just out by the fire, they see this like a green streak of light go over into the mountain. He decides that he's going to go check it out because it looks like he is the only one that's seen it. And they're just like, please don't go there. He goes there and he gets killed, or he dies. And the guy who is basically like running that campsite's like, usually if someone were to die on on the campsite during like doing the work, you would be compensated, like the family would be compensated, but he didn't die on the campsite doing the work, so we can't. So now the mom has to do something strange for a little bit of change. And there's this like red barn, like this red building that's been created or was being built. And later on, like the daughter's just like, so what did you have to do to get that money from the red house, from the red building? She's like, none of your goddamn business, bitch. Mind it. And it's really obvious that she's not happy about that whole situation, the fact that her mom had to do anything, and then her mom also ends up dying. So she ends up having to work there to basically provide for herself. So while she's down there, like, she has on probably the ugliest dress in the house, okay? Everybody else has on like the skimpy dresses because they are waitresses, right? So, or they're servers. And she's serving the guy who's like running that place, and there's like a fight going on, and he's like, oh, I am so excited for you to see this shit. Actually, I want you to check this out. So a cage opens and they caught a predator. Now the predator is definitely the one that ended up killing her dad. He does not have an arm, and they released like rabid dogs. That was unnecessary, because then he like took the head off one of the dogs. You didn't have to do that. Didn't have to do that at all. That was unnecessary as fuck. But, you know, he's clearly angry and missing an arm. And there's like this big fat guy that's there with his arm, and he's like walking towards him because he wants his arm back. And she's just like, I'm in hell. Yes, girl. Yes, you are. Dante's Inferno. Okay. Now, the second story, there is this older man who is like, you know, having visions. He's very clearly dying. And there is somebody there who's like taking care of him. I think it's like his son or his nephew or his grandson or something like that. And he's like, no, you're sick. He's like, I'm not sick. I'm literally dying. Please, look with your eyes. Your eyes are showing you that I'm dying. Do not deny that. Okay. I'm about to go. And he's talking about like having a vision and everything. And so at some point in time, they were all out. And this is prior to him dying. They were all out, and they're basically like a hunting party, and they come across like these different situations and artifacts. And he was paid to go on like a hunt, basically. And as the hunting party is, you know, crossing around, they come across a human body that has been like strung up on a tree, and then skinned. So there is no skin. And they're just like, what the fuck? They're like, oh my God, it was a man. And they're just like, get him down before, you know, like the animals decide to come around, like coyotes and wolves and shit. Like, get him down. So, you know, they're sleeping one night, and there's a guy, and like some of them are sleeping, some of them are awake near the fire, and there's a guy who's basically telling the story, and he's basically saying that what they saw earlier, no human man could have done it. And there are these like stories coming around from the village that he comes from about these things that are like monsters or not from here or anything like that. And as he's telling the story, there are lasers on his forehead, and I don't think any of them recognize that in any way, shape, or form. They have no idea what that is, and I honestly don't even think that they're looking. But he gets his head blown off. He does. And then as they are starting to panic, one of them gets like cut in half with that, like, I'm gonna call it like a little ninja star thing, that little ninja thing that he throws. Cut in half, and everybody's just like freaking out. People have passed out, and he's just going through killing people. It is what it is, right? And the older man is like, oh, this is not, we're not about to do this. So he like paints himself, and he's getting ready to face off against the predator. So when he finds the predator, after he's painted himself, marked himself, got himself ready to go, he finds the predator, and the predator's not moving. He's like, why is he not attacking me? And he's assuming it's because the predator can't see. The predator has a read on you, so he's looking dead at you. But they fight. He takes his helmet off, and then the guy is able to just like stab him in the face with a sword, and then he reinforces the sword after he brings back the younger man, giving him some like blood or something. Brings back the younger man. He becomes stronger and possibly crazy, and then he's reinforcing the steel on a sword and leaving it in a stone, kind of like a sword in a stone type thing. And he does mention Merlin as he's like doing his little war cry thing. And I'm just sitting here like, how is it that these people who are clearly unprepared were able to defeat you like that? You had lasers. And it takes me back to Prey, and I'm just like, all right. So, you know, I'm just saying. But in the third story, which is actually my favorite story because this one acts like he knows what he's doing, we come to modern times, right? And it's a convention about weapons in RA. So There's one guy in particular who is showing like a drone that can, like, you know, measure you, get your height, weight, things like that. And I think it also probably knows your name. And the predator that is there, he's invisible and he's just watching. But he becomes intrigued by that drone because I believe that drone actually belongs to him. So he goes down into the crowd and he's like walking around and things like that. And somebody does bump into him, but they can't see him. And then he makes himself visible and starts like mocking the guy who's selling the drone, and then kills him. And he just goes through and empties the clip on everybody without even using a fucking gun. And there's actually one person there that I do feel sorry for, because he's quite literally not paying attention. He's not paying attention and he can't see. But as he's going through and killing all of these people, there's one guy that takes a lady hostage, and he does kill that guy, but I also think that he kills the woman too. And it's like, what am I being murdered for? Because I was just being held hostage by a psychopath. Why did you get me? There's not really confirmation. I don't see her body, so I can't tell. But when you look at the very end, like the very last panel where he's looking out into the wreckage, everybody's dead. So I'm going to assume he definitely also killed her. But there's a guy who has a VR headset on, and he's literally not paying attention. Like, he can't see or anything like that, and he gets his arms cut off. And honestly and truly, I felt so bad. At some point his mask does come off so they see his face, and not gonna lie, hear me out. But anyway, and there's also a lady who was there, another lady who was there who started screaming. 100% she's dead. Because, ma'am, why are you making so much noise right now? Please, I beg. And then he looks out at everything, and there's just bodies everywhere. I would hate to have been here and not immediately have just run out of the way, like run out of the room. The guy with the VR headset, the VR headset on, I felt bad because he's quite literally minding his own actual business, and he got his arms cut off. I would have been so upset. So upset if I bled out here and I wasn't doing anything. The artwork is interesting. I definitely like the artwork for the third book, their third story. The first story was okay. Artwork was a little jarring, kind of jagged, which I guess kind of fits the story that was happening there. I wish that there was a little bit more, because they didn't do anything with that particular predator. They cut his arm off and gave it to some big fat guy, and he's literally just sitting there holding the arm as a trophy. And the most he did was kill a dog. Okay. The second one, the artwork was pretty intense also. I kind of liked that one. The story being kind of King Arthur-ish was also interesting, with the sword and the stone and the mentioning of Merlin and things like that, without actively having any magic, although I'm pretty sure that was like a potion he gave the younger guy and brought him back. I don't think anything really too bad happened to him. I think he kind of just got cut versus being like eviscerated. But the third story, definitely loved. I love seeing human beings get things that they deserve, for real. I do feel bad about the two ladies and that man. That lady being held hostage, the lady who was screaming, I don't know, I don't feel bad for her, because why are you so loud right now? You should be running. Not even gonna lie. The guy with the VR, listen, I don't know, man. I'm sorry. I am so sorry that happened to you. But that is it for this episode of The Doctor's Office. if you have not gotten Midnight Whispers or Salt Blood being the most recent, please do so, because Salt Blood is amazing, and the second book does come out for Halloween. So and I will put that link to the Shadow Library in there. You can also get it on Amazon, as well as Barnes & Noble. And then if you have not listened to Ghastly Gospels is amazing. We talk about everything, and if you haven't listened to it, please do. But again, that is it for this episode of The Doctor's Office, and I will see you guys at your next checkup.